This morning, I know last time that I got to speak, I had the chance to speak, I spoke about cockroaches. And that was probably one of the most disgusting things that I ever spoke about, but until this morning. And I don't want you guys to be grossed out by any of this. I'm not really going to name things by name or anything. But this morning we're going to be talking about parasites. This morning, and the title of my message this morning is Identifying Parasites. And parasites are disgusting. Okay, they are nasty. They are worse than cockroaches. I would rather have a family of cockroaches hang out and watch the Iron Bowl with me in the couch than I would some parasites. But parasites are nasty. They are some things that, and the thing is they're so small and so hidden that you don't know that they're there. But this morning I want to define the word parasite. A parasite is defined as an organism that invades a host and begins to live there. Now I'm not going to be very long this morning. I'm going to be brief. But I do want to talk about some parasites in our lives. I want to talk about parasites in our lives. I want you to understand that parasites, as they live in the host and as they live inside of that thing, that living, breathing thing, they begin to grow, they begin to rob, and they host, or they live inside the host or the living thing, and they rob nutrients and also can cause malnutrition and disease. Now, I know Miss Linda, I know she probably, and if any of the rest of you that work or around maybe with veterinarians' offices and things, I know you're probably familiar with some different things, and that's about as far as I'm going to go with that. But they can almost kill, or if not kill. Most parasites try not to kill. They try not to kill the host. They try to keep it living, because as long as that thing is living, they can live. But there is some parasites that do try to kill, that will kill. If they're present and they live there long enough, they will kill. They will take you down. I remember as a kid, my dad we had several dogs and different things over the 18 years, 19 years I lived at home. But my dad loved those little yappy Pomeranian dogs. I cannot stand them. I love this. They just yap so much. I'm like, they don't hush. They don't ever relax and chill out. I don't know why they don't have a heart attack by the time they're 6 months old. They're just crazy. But my dad loved them. He had one when he was younger, and he wanted to get another one, so we got one. And this dog he was a little. And I loved him, man. He was like the man of the house. But I remember when we got him, he was just so down and out, and he had no life to him. I'm like, man, this dog isn't normal. These things normally bounce around and just spin circles 10 times before you even realize it. But he was just kind of mellowed out and he just wasn't acting himself. He acted kind of like a little hound dog. And we realized that, there's something wrong with this dog. About halfway home, I think we drove to the edge of Florida somewhere to buy, I don't know where it was at. But by halfway home, they were like, there's something wrong with this dog. We just bought us a dud. There's something wrong with him. And we got to looking at him, and he was ate up with fleas. I'm talking about, he was 6 weeks old, puppy. I'm talking about, they were attacking on him. They were just terrible. We got him home, and we got some stuff, and of course, back then you didn't have Google, so you just kind of, went by ear and did whatever, and we just bathed him and cleaned him up and tried our best to get most of them. We got 95% of them all up to start with, and I'm talking, that was a brand new dog. It was like the dude was just jumping around acting. I'm like, man, please come back. I was praying for those fleas to come back. The dog was acting crazy. But those things were just sucking on him and just terrorizing him. And he was 6 weeks old. He was helpless. He didn't know. He was just like, man, I just know I don't have any energy. And I want you to understand, sometimes in life, we allow those things. And see, I want you to, that dog can say, hey, why don't you come on in, invite yourself, make yourself at home. You know what? And just feast. Do what you got to do. And if he takes me out, then hey, that's not the mindset of that dog. That wasn't it. Later on, the dog was older, and he was bouncing around. He was a house dog, man. He was a great dog by the time it was all said and done with. He understood the way that we thought. And I'm dealing with that now with another dog. But he just got to where he didn't have any energy. And he wasn't like 4 or 5 years old at the time when this happened. And I got to look at it, and he had like a huge tick on his shoulder, and it was just killing him. It was killing him. And I know some of y'all that have dogs and this and that, y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to be gross or anything like that, but I want to make a good parallel here. I want you to get it in your mind. But that thing was just sucking the life out of him. It was honestly, I believe that if I did not find that thing, the next day the dog would have died. He'd have been dead because he had no life. We knew the personality of him. We'd had him for 4 or 5 years. We knew what he was like. But he just wasn't himself. And a lot of times we come in contact with people in that same manner. You see people, you used to know them, but you see that there's something different about them. You're like, man, they're a great person, loves God, but there's something different about them. And you think about it, if we allow those things in our life just to stick around and hang around, those parasites or sin, it's going to eventually take us out. It may not kill us, but it's going to almost kill us, or it may kill us. And this morning, I want to challenge you this morning, and I want you to know that most messages that I preach and that I put together, that the way that I put them, I want you to know that I'm putting this in your life. It's not. I can't take parasites out of you. I can't make sin leave your life. You're the one that's in control of those things, and I need you to understand that this morning. You're in control of who you are. You're in control of that. You either allow God to work in your life, or you either allow God not to. You either allow Him halfway in or all the way in. You control that flow. This morning I want to read a scripture, and I want you to know that these things, these parasites, they will invade. They will invade, and when they do, man, they show no mercy. They will take you out. I can promise you those things, those fleas and those ticks and those different things that I just talked about, they were there not to leave that dog half alive, but they were there to take him out. And they were showing no mercy. They were going at it. There was no, let me go about half throttle. They were full throttle, ready to go. And I want you to know that sin's wanting to do that in your life as well. All the enemy wants is just a little foothold in your life, just so he can just start it. Because I want you to know that all those fleas, when we got that dog, they all didn't just, hey, let's all jump on at one time. It started with one. It started with one single flea, and they multiplied. Then begin to take him down. And I want you, and in James chapter 1, verse 13 through 15, it says, when tempted, no one should say, God has tempted me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does He tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desires and enticed. Then, verse 15, then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And then sin, when it's full grown, it gives birth to death. So understand that those fleas, whenever they jumped on that dog, when they jumped out, they were like, there was just one. It just took one. And whenever then those things, he was helpless and didn't know, but those things, the owner of that dog, before we got him, allowed that one to be there, and so it allowed the rest of them to multiply. And understand in your life, if sin continues to hang around, and it may be one of those things that no one in this world ever knows. If you understand parasites, you understand that parasites aren't always an external thing, they're an internal thing as well. So it may be one of those things that nobody knows or nobody can ever see, only you. And God continues to knock on the door and say, hey, you know what, man, you really need to do something about this. You really need to let me help you in this. And you slam the door and say, you know what, I got this. Understand that those things can also be those things internal, and it will take you down. It will take you away. Parasites will eventually kill you. They will kill you. They will take you down spiritually, and there'll be nothing left. They're kind of like a vulture, but in a lot smaller size and doing it a lot slower. It's kind of like termites. Termites don't tear down the structure in one day. It takes some time. It takes time. Now today, as I've already described all those things, and does anybody want any of those things in your house or around? No. I've got 2 dogs back there, and I don't want fleas on them. I don't want anything around them. I'm going to do what it takes to take care of them, and I know that you do too. We don't want those things. Then why do we allow those things to creep into our life? Why do we allow the sin to invade our life? Why do we allow those things? If we don't want those things, the physical side of it, if we don't want them on our dogs, if we don't want them around in our yards, or whatever the case may be, then why do we allow it into our hearts? Why do we allow it into our life? This morning, I don't want to just step on you or anything. I want you to understand, I want you to realize, and here's the thing, and I realized in my life, because I had to do some analyzing in myself, I had to realize that there was some things in my life that I didn't even realize that were parasites, but they really, truly turned out as I checked myself, they really were. They really were dragging me down, allowing anything that takes your focus away from God is a parasite. Anything that takes your energy and drains it is a parasite. Today, I want you to understand that sin doesn't just jump on you. It begins with temptation. And that's where I want to go this morning. It begins with that temptation. And the analogy, the way that I see this, and you got to know me, I do analogies like crazy, and I have to see visual things. And I want you to, and this is what I was thinking of. The other day I was sitting in Pizza Hut and I was eating and we were being waited on and I got my drink, and I drink with a straw. I don't like to touch the cups with my lip, but I got a straw and I stuck it down in the drink and I began to get my drink. Understand that temptation is kind of like that straw. There's no way that drink can come into my mouth and into my body without that straw. If I let that cup sit there, there's no way that I can sit there and tell that drink to come into my mouth. Understand that we allow those things. That temptation is the channel for sin to come into your life. This morning I want to read a passage from the Love Dare, and I know that is kind of an old thing, but it brings out the parasite. And this is a passage from that Love Dare book. It says, "Watch out for parasites. A parasite is anything that latches onto you and sucks the life out of you or your marriage. They are usually in a form of an addiction like gambling, drugs, or pornography. They promise pleasure, but they grow like a disease and consume more and more of your thoughts, your time, and your money. They steal away your loyalty and your heart for those who you love. Your marriage and or your walk with God rarely survives if parasites are present. Rarely survives if parasites are present. If you love God or love your spouse, you must destroy any addiction that your heart has, or that must destroy any addiction that in your heart. And if you don't, it will destroy you." And I remember, a lot of you guys remember that movie, Fireproof, I think is the name of it, Where the Love Dare Came From. And today I don't want to really go down the avenue of marriage or anything like that, but there's a wide range of things that parasites can destroy. It can destroy you spiritually as an individual, it can destroy marriage, it can destroy relationships, etc., 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 and we can just keep going. Today I want to challenge you, I want you to analyze your life and look at those things and really suck the time out and suck your life out. What are those things? If it's not healthy, then we don't need it. If it's not healthy, we don't need it. Parasites will only suck the life out. They will suck the life out of your marriage. It'll also suck out your ability to live the life that God has planned for you. It will cause you to take different routes. It will cause you to take different turns and not go in the direction that God's called you to go. Those little small things in your life that you call insignificant, that doesn't matter. Oh, it's just one little thing. That one thing will grow. Because the Word says if you continue to allow that thing to hang around, it's going to multiply. It's going to grow. And it's going to eventually cause you to die spiritually. So this morning, I want to ask you this morning, what are the parasites in your life? What are the things that are draining you, that are taking you down this morning? Maybe it is your marriage. Maybe it is your spiritual walk with God, your relationship with someone else. I don't know. It's not for me to tell you. It's for you to find out. But it's for me to bring to your attention, you know what? You got to get rid of them. You got to do what it takes to get rid of them. I don't know what your addiction is. I don't know what it is. I realized back about 3 or 4 weeks ago that I realized that it was something that was really small and insignificant, but I realized that I needed to get rid of it. It was just simply watching a television show. You say, well, man, aren't you being like super spiritual right now? I'm just telling you this morning. For me, it was this Netflix television show that I'm not going to name, but it wasn't a terrible show, but I just realized that every night about 9:30 or so that I would sit down and we'd turn it on and we'd watch. It was a clean show. It wasn't anything dirty or nasty or anything, but it was just a television show that was consuming my life, that I would sit up past midnight watching several different episodes of this television show. And God convicted me and said, are you really spending that much time with me? Whether it be in the Word or whether it be in prayer time. I was spending 3 or 4 hours a day watching this. And it was a good show. It really is. But you know what? I had to back up and I said, you know what? I had to realize, you know what? I got to remove this because if not, it's consuming me. Because here's the thing. I'm one of these people that one of the last things that I hear at night when I wake up in the morning, that's what it's in my head. Like the other night, we were reading about Saul, and I'll get into Saul in just a little bit, but we were reading, Brooke and I and Devon were reading about in 1 Samuel about Saul. And we really got in depth in some discussion about things, and that was the last thing that we did before I went to bed, and the very next morning, it was like I watched a movie. It was like I woke up like, okay, what happened to Saul? You know, it was just like, so that's the way I work. You may not work that way, but that's the way I work. So the first thing that was on my mind in the morning was what's going to be on the next episode. And see, Netflix is a sin already because you can just skip to the next episode with no commercials. You can go from episode 1 to episode 2 to episode 50 million, whatever it is, however long it was. You could do that. And it was no commercials, no interruption. It was amazing. But I realized it was overtaking my life, something that small. And so this morning I want you to look at your life and I want you to realize what are those things? What are those, if it's a television show, if it's an addiction, if it's this, if it's a hobby, whatever it may be, what is it? What is tempting you? What is tempting you? What is causing you to go down to those avenues and down those roads that we really shouldn't be going? And it may not be, like I said, that television show wasn't a bad show. It really wasn't. But it took my focus off of God. It took my focus off the relationship that I had with God. With the time that I should be spending with Him, I was spending with a television show with some actors that I don't know who they are. Interested in what the next thing or the next plot was going to be. The next storyline was going to happen. And I'm going to tell you guys, that's not worth me losing my relationship with God or even venturing further away because of a television show. It's not worth it. So this morning, and I want to be transparent, I'll be real with you. That was my parasite I just had to deal with here lately. And I've had to deal with several more in my life. And maybe there's some things that you brought to this altar that just, you know, that have been parasites that you've taken care of. But I want you to understand, parasites don't give up. The devil doesn't give up. Every day Satan's going to come at you with something new. You may lay one down, but he's going to come at you with something else. So know that. Some of us are like, well, if I took care of this, then I'm good. No, you're wrong. Because the Word says He's going to continue every day to come at you. Because John 10:10 says that He's come to steal, kill, and destroy. And He's going to do whatever it takes to do that. And if it's a silly television show, then that's what it's going to do. If it's a silly addiction to this sport or this or that or whatever it may be, whatever's taking your focus away, He's going to do it. He's slick. He's creative. This morning it may be one of those things that you didn't even see it coming, kind of a blindside type thing. I didn't realize it. And I was like, man, I had to sit back and just take a few minutes. I was like, man, this is really killing me. So I had to do away with it. And yes, Brooke, I hadn't watched it in several weeks. I hadn't. They asked me the other day, I said, hey, why don't you watch? I just don't. I'm just not going to. And I'm not saying I want to watch it, but I'm just not going to allow those things to take me over. When I begin to see those things taken, I just got to back up. I got to back up. Today, parasites may be a private thing, or it may be something that may be that a social acceptance. I don't know. It may be your job. Your parasite may be your job. It may be that you're so into your job. It may be that you're so into that it's consuming everything because you're almost like a perfectionist, that you want everything done right and you want to be successful, but somewhere we forgot to put God in the mix. And not only is that job, that addiction, that parasite, not only is it messing up your relationship with God, but it's also maybe hindering your marriage. I don't know. Just an example. Look at your life and see what's driving you. What's behind the steering wheel of your life? What's driving you this morning? I'm just using that for example. I don't know. But see, here's what happens is we allow those things to come in and really take control. And they are what fulfills the enjoyment in our life. And not God. And that's the place that God really intends and where His purpose is for us to enjoy Him. Enjoy the life that God has made for us. And the direction that God has for us. This morning the question, and I talked about, and there's different categories of parasites. I've named just a few. This morning the question is you've heard all these things and maybe you've already realized in your life, hey, this is what it is. You already know that parasite in your life. You already know that sin that's sucking the life out of you. That's causing your focus not to be on God but on other things. You realize that. You say, well, is there any hope? Can I get over this? Can I overcome this? Yeah. I want to read 1 Corinthians 10:13. It says, the temptation in your life are no different from what others experience. And our God is faithful. He will not allow temptation to do more than you can stand. When you are tempted, He will show you the way out so that you can endure. That's a powerful scripture. That's powerful. This morning I want to just take a moment and I want to tell you three truths about temptation. I want to tell you three. The first truth that you must know about temptation is that everyone experiences the pull of temptation. Everybody does. There's not one person in this place that is not tempted, that doesn't face temptation on a daily basis. There's not one person in here. If you say you're not, you're denying yourself. You're denying. You're in denial. Because the first part of that verse, it says, temptation in your life, the temptations in your life are no different from what others experience. So right there the Word tells us that everybody goes through it. Everybody faces different things in your life. But understand, it's not a sin to be tempted. It's not a sin to be tempted. In Matthew 4, it tells us Jesus was tempted. In Hebrews 4:15, it says, everyone feels the pull of temptation, and the temptation that we experience has been experienced by others as well. We all face it. We all go through it. We all battle it. So it's not a new battle that just has happened. So the thing is you're not going to meet anyone they may be facing different temptations, but all of us face temptation. So I want you to understand this morning that everybody is going through it. Everyone is facing it. The struggle with temptation is not the sin. I want you to listen to this. The struggle with temptation is not the sin. It is the choices we make as we face those temptations that can make it into a sin. We choose to allow temptation into our life. We choose. It's just like that straw. I can put that straw in that cup and I can allow that liquid to sit there, or I can choose to suck on the straw and receive that drink. I'll be more tempted to take a swig of that drink with the straw in there than I will without it. Understand, temptation is a channel. We make the choice whether to take in the sin or not. We make the choice. In James 1:14 and 15, and I've already read this, I'm going to read it again. Temptation comes from our own desire, which entices us and drags us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions. And when the sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. It's not a sin to be tempted. It's not wrong to go through temptation. What's wrong is when you take a step and give in to the temptation. Understand when it said in Matthew 4, Jesus was tempted. He was tempted hard. Satan tempted him hard. He didn't give in. It's not a sin to be tempted. Everybody's going to face it. Everybody's going to go through it. The thing is, understand, we all face it. And the only way that we can get is to overcome Him by His presence. We have to have Him in our life to overcome these things. The second thing that you need to understand, the truth about temptation is that God limits the power of temptation. God can control those things. In the middle part of the verse of 1 Corinthians 10:13, it says, and God is faithful. I love it. God is faithful in your life. God is faithful in your circumstances. circumstance, God is faithful even in your life that He doesn't approve of. He's faithful because He loves you. He loves you this morning. God is faithful, and He will not allow temptation to be more than what you can stand. He will not allow temptation to be more than what you can stand. That means temptation can come at you, but it ain't going to beat you. That verse right there should give you a little bit of arrogance about yourself. You know what? Give me your best shot. Go ahead and put whatever you want to in front of me, but you're not going to beat me. Some of us in this place need to get the attitude that, you know what? I don't care what you throw at me. I don't care how weak I may seem, or how strong I may seem, or what my relationship with God may be. But you know what? You're not going to beat me. You're not going to beat me. I'm tired of looking around and seeing Christians being so weak, because you know what? God says He gives us the ability, He gives us the proof in the Word that, you know what? I got your back. We need to walk around with a chip on our shoulder with arrogance and say, you know what? You do whatever you want to do. Throw at me whatever you want to throw at me. You make the choice to step in or not, but just to know, if you allow God to be in your life and allow Him to be present in your life, He ain't going to beat you. He ain't going to beat you. God will give you strength, and He'll also keep you strong. In Jude, there's only, of course, one chapter, 24 and 25, that says, to Him who is able to keep you from stumbling and to present you before the glorious presence without fault and with great joy. To the only God our Savior be glory, majesty, power, and authority through Jesus Christ our Lord before all ages, now and forever. God, all you need is His presence. That song we sung earlier, His presence is heaven to me. All you need is His presence. If He's present in your life, these temptations are just temptations, and that's it. The line's drawn. We must have His presence in our life. God's presence is not something we want to leave on the shelf. It's not something we want to leave at home when we go to our jobs every day. It's not something we want to leave at home when we go watch the football game or whatever it may be. But we need His presence at all times, because the enemy's always on the prowl. He doesn't take time off. He doesn't clock in and clock out. Understand that we need God's presence. We need God to be our shield. Because I can promise you, the temptation that you're facing, devils come at you a lot harder than that, but God has limited. God has stepped in the way and said, you know what? You're going to be tempted, but I am your shield. And if you believe in me, it ain't going to beat you. It ain't going to beat you this morning. Not only does He limit the power of temptation through His strengthening in you by His presence, but also, number 3. I'm going to get through this quick this morning, guys. Number 3. You have a way out. He gives you a way out. The end part of that verse in 1 Corinthians 10:13, it says, when you are tempted, He will show you a way out so that you can endure. Oh my goodness. Not only does He say, you know what, it's not a sin to be tempted, that everybody goes through it, but not only does He say, you know what, I'm the one that says, if you got me in you, if you allow my presence to be in you, I'm going to draw a line and say, you can't beat me. But not only that, He's going to allow a way out of it. He's made a way out. He's made a way out this morning. His Word says that no matter what you face, and no matter what you go through, and no matter the things in your life, I'm going to make a way out. I'm going to create a way out. This morning, I need you to see this with me this morning. Before I knew this verse, before I really allowed this verse to just kind of to come in me and just really just take me over, my focus was really on the temptation. It was really on my checkbook ain't where I wanted. I just focused on that. Oh my gosh, oh my goodness. God, this is... We focus so much on our circumstance and not the way to get out of it. We focus so much on... Y'all know a donut? I love Krispy Kreme donuts. I love them. Y'all know they're in the center though, there's nothing there. It's empty. So many times we focus on what's not there and not a way to get out. So many times we look at our life and just, oh pitiful me, and we wallow in that temptation, we wallow in that sin, and just look at it and say, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? You sit up all night, you stress out because, like I said, your finances are not where it want to be, or you my job's not going to where I want it to, or my best friend doesn't like me anymore, or Alabama just lost the Iron Bowl, or whatever the case may be. But understand and realize that God's made a way out. Look at the way we need to focus on how to get out of it instead of focus on where we're at the moment, because God's made a way out. God's made a way out. Guys, today God wants you to know that He can remove you from your circumstances. God can remove you from your situations if you just allow Him. If you just allow Him. This morning I want to just tell you a story real quick, and I'm going to wrap this up. In May 21st of 2005, there was a WBO heavyweight boxing match. One of the fighters, the one that was the heavyweight, the champion, the title holder, his name was Andrew Galuda. And his challenger's name was Layman Brewster. I'm not really big into boxing. But understand that there was a title, and understand that Andrew Galuda was a fighter that had a powerful punch. He had 38 victories, 5 losses, and 31 knockouts. This man was a stud. He was a big guy. And before the match even happened, Layman was like, man, Brewster said, I got to watch tape on this guy. I got to figure out how to beat him. And so he began to break down film and began to look and begin to watch. And he noticed one thing about Andrew. He noticed one thing about Galuda. He noticed that he left his hands open for a left hook to come in. Every time he had a habit of leaving an opening so he can bring in the left hook. And so he began to study and he began to break that down. So whenever the time come for the match, just seconds after the first round started, Brewster looked and he realized that his hands were open. He realized there was an opening right there, so he took the shot, the left hook, he come in, and he hit the mat. The champion hit the mat, who had 38 wins, 5 losses, but had 31 knockouts. He was the man. He had a punch that could knock the wall down. So Brewster took the shot and knocked him down. He got right back up. Remind you, this is just the first go around. He gets up and he shakes off and he gets back in his stance and he realizes his hands are still open. He's still got an opening. So Brewster took it again and he took that shot again, the left hook, right to the side of the jaw, and he went down again. The champ went down again. So he got up one more time, shook it off. Brewster's in amazement. He's like, man, I just knocked this guy, knocked the champ down twice. So Brewster's thinking, you know what, this guy, he's going to get what I'm doing. He's gonna catch on. I'm really going to have to start fighting now. So he gets ready and he gets back in his stance and he gets his fist up, he gets his gloves up, and he realizes it's still open again. One more time, it's still open again. So Brewster went for it. He thought he was really going to block him. He went for it and he hit him one more time and he went to the mat. And if you understand anything about boxing, if you hit the mat 3 times, you're knocked out. You're out of there. You're out of there. Brewster realized that there was an opening. And he took the chance and he took the challenge. And through that, understanding that, he knocked him down, not once but twice, but 3 times in the first round. The first round. This is a man that people were scared of. They didn't want anything to do with him. But he knocked him out with just three punches, 3 left hooks. Knocked him out. Hit him to the mat 3 different times. This morning, understand that in similar ways, Satan does that. Satan looks at your life and he sees that there's an opening. He sees that there's a way that he can bring in a left hook into your life and just knock you out. Guys, this morning we got to sew up the holes. Guys, this morning we got to look at our life and see where we're weak at. Because understand, that's what happened, is that Brewster saw his weakness. And he took advantage of it, and Satan's the same way. He's slick and he's sly. He wants to come into your life and he wants to creep in. He's not going to get in your face. He may try to intimidate you, but he's going to find those loopholes. He's going to find those weak points. He's going to find where you've let your guard down. And he's going to come in. He's going to take control. You know what? It may not be as powerful as a knockout. It may not be as powerful as a punch. It may be something small and insignificant in your life that you think. Just like the Word said in James, if we allow those things to continue to hang around, it's going to just continue to grow and get out of control and eventually kill you. See, the Word says in Ephesians that Paul wrote that don't give the devil an opportunity. He said, don't give the devil an opportunity. Don't give him a way in. And so many times in our life, we're too busy looking at our circumstances and not trying to find a way out through God. We're too busy just wallowing in our own self-pity and our own issues, or whatever the case may be. Maybe that parasite has just grown. Maybe that sin has just grown so much that it's just so huge that you feel like that it's a mountain, that you can't defeat it. Understand, that's what happened with King Saul. Saul was a great man. Saul was a good man. He was a warrior. But he allowed jealousy and selfishness and pride and all of the above to enter into his life one by one by one. And eventually it became the death of him. I'm talking about there's moments where Saul was just good. He was fine with David being in his presence, playing the harp. But then all of a sudden that parasite would wake up in him and it would just cause him to rage and anger and throw spears at him and chase after him. If you'll notice most of 1 Samuel, David's running after his life and Saul's chasing him because of anger. Not because of something David did. Because of anger. Because of selfishness and pride and jealousy. That may be a parasite that you're facing this morning. I don't know. This morning I want to tell you, and I promise you and I guarantee you, the longer that you allow those things to be present in your life, the longer that you allow those things to feed on you, you're going to eventually die. They're going to grow. They're going to get bigger. It's not going to be just this little issue that comes up every 6 months in your mind that just angers you and then you just let it go away, because that's how it started with Saul. It was a small, insignificant thing. He kept saying, man, this is just a kid. There's no way, just whatever. I'm the king. And eventually, it was the death of Saul because he allowed that thing to hang around and he didn't allow God to deal with him. This morning, if you will, bow your heads with me this morning. And again, I don't know your issue and I don't know where you're at in your life. I don't know your relationship with God. All of us can just read the book by its cover, but we don't know the internal